what am I going to say next? It's nice to see your smiley faces. Well, it's nice to be here. I've been missing church. We've been holed up at the Wandering Caravan Park for the last few weeks. And everyone says, oh, is it cold in the caravan? No. We've got a blow heater which goes on 24/7. So, no, it's been good. God has blessed us abundantly. We needed that time to just get away and just take stock and to get our health and to catch our breath after trying to move this massive house and 4 sheds, pack it all in one little container, a 40-foot container, and the church shed. It was a massive task, but God really took care of us. Even on the Monday, which we thought that the container was supposed to go, I rang him up and says, when's the guy coming to pick the container up? And he said, he's not. I said, what do you mean he's not? It's tomorrow. I thought, oh. And I thought, what do we do? He's coming tomorrow. And I'm glad it happened that way, because I packed so much more in that container in that day that I had. And, you know, we got down there on the Wednesday, cleaned it up, and just to sit and say, we are homeless. And we are homeless. We can't get into our new place till maybe August, and God's given us this caravan, and that we can just take stock. And we're meeting lots of people. It's refreshing meeting new people, because we have the angle, we meet people, intentional relationships, because we want to tell them about Jesus. You know what I mean? And even yesterday we thought, oh, we'll go go to the house and see how the streams. We've got the Northam River as our back boundary, and we thought we'd go check it out. And we went down there, and as we went through the reserve and back, this farmer was coming out, and he's our neighbor, and we were able to introduce ourselves and just a chance. I don't think it's chance. God organized all this so that neighbors knew who we were and those sort of who are coming. And so that's where we are. This is our story. And God has blessed us so well, and we are just so grateful. The only down part is that we're missing our church. We are missing our church. So I'm glad to be here. Ray was supposed to preach, but I rang Ray up and said, I need it more than you, Ray. I need to preach. So here I am. And what to preach? This story it's a kid's story, by the way, a story of Esther. Kids, you like the story of Esther? Right? So this is what I'm going through, but there is more to Esther than just the story, because God has orchestrated this point in time that he wants to be glorified. But do you notice that in the story of Esther, God is not mentioned once? Joseph, if I can get you to just bring down the low frequencies just a touch so it doesn't reverberate. That's good, thanks. And so this story, I'm going to tackle it from a point of view that although God's name is not mentioned, but God's hand is right through it. He's right through it, and not only through it in the story, in that small, I suppose the story goes for 1 year, but the Achaemenid Empire goes from 559 BC right down to 330 BC. It goes for 200 over years, but we have this snippet of time where Xerxes the first, or Ahasuerus, or whatever his name is, right? I'll get to it. This is where the story is set. So it's just a snapshot of God's hand on his people, who he had given counsel years and years ago, but they had not taken his counsel, and they are now in this position. Before we start, let's have a word of prayer. Our dear Lord and Heavenly Father, I want to thank you and praise you dear Lord, that you have given us stories in the Bible or true accounts, historical accounts, that we can have a look at, we can read about it, we can place ourselves in the story, dear Lord, and to see how you have wrought your goodness, your grace, your kindness, and your love to us, who you have claimed to be your people, and we want to thank you and praise you. Please send your Holy Spirit to open our hearts to receive this message. Please be with me that I would present this message of yours in a way that would make it alive, that would lift up you, Jesus, to be our King and our ruler and our friend and our Savior. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, some background. You know, with every story, so we see the story of Daniel 6. Okay, kids, Daniel 6, you don't know Daniel 6, but you know Daniel and the lions. You know, the Daniel and the lions den type thing, and you think, what's the story about? There's some players on there, there's some characters in there. So, who are the characters? And the kids will say, well, the characters are the lions. They're a character, they're part of the story. Who else? We have King Darius, right? And then we have Daniel. He's the main character there. And of course, we got some baddies in there that were wanted to get rid of Daniel. And they told the king that he should do a certain thing so that Daniel couldn't pray. And if he did pray, he's going to be penalized for it. And so the king was tricked into writing this thing down to send to everyone to say, whoever is going to worship or pray to a different God, except for the king, they will be punished. And you know, once the king writes this out and sends it out, it cannot be changed. That was in Babylonian times, right? That was in actually from Babylonian times. Now we are moved King Darius. Now it's in Persian, Medo-Persian times. Okay? So when we look at the history of this, we're looking at 559. We have Cyrus who comes in chapter 5 of Daniel. He comes in and he takes over Babylon, right? He goes under the gates, or under the river, under the wall, through the gates that were left open, and he goes in, and then he goes right into the throne room where Belshazzar is there. He's celebrating, he's having a big party, and he's half drunk. He got all the vessels out of holy vessels. And then Cyrus comes in, but the writing was on the wall before that. Teke mene upharsin, right? Saying that you've been judged, found in the balance, found wanting. So that's a story. And then when you look at that story, there are main players, God's there, and he's writings on the wall, and he's prepared Cyrus way down hundreds of years before, 150 years before. It was always that Cyrus, my servant, is going to do this. So we get Cyrus coming in at 559. After Cyrus, we have just Cambyses II comes in, just for a short time, I think 8 years or something like that. And then we have Darius. Darius comes in, and that's where the story of Daniel comes from, right? After Darius, we have Xerxes I, which is Ahasuerus, which is the story of Esther, right? He's there from, I think, 486 to 465 or something like that, right? After Xerxes I, of course, he has his son Artaxerxes, and Artaxerxes, we have Xerxes II, and then we have Sogdianus. And then we have, after that Sogdianus, we have, you have Darius II. And then Artaxerxes II, Artaxerxes III, Arsus. And then at 330 BC, we have Darius III. That was the last of the Achaemenid kingdom that went all that period. And after that comes Alexander the Great, Greece. But we are going to focus on this little bit of time that is Xerxes I. And I'll get you to turn your Bibles. I said to Cheryl, where's the computer, Cheryl? And she said, I don't know. Oh, the kids packed it up. It's in the container somewhere. And I think it's a blessing because I tend to lean on my computer, on PowerPoints and all those sort of things. But today, I don't even know where my Bible is because I keep my Bible on my phone, but I want a paper bit here. So if you can turn to the book of Esther, and we are going to start this story. Esther, this story is an amazing story, and you've heard it before. You've heard this story before. So we will look at chapters, and we will start with chapter 1, of course. How many chapters in the book of Esther? The 10 chapters, right? The 10 chapters. My brain is sort of more sensitive to numbers, right? Although I don't know about the book of Numbers much, but give me numbers. You know, I know there were 12 kings in Persia, so I was able to memorize all those kings and those sort of things and use acronyms and those sort of things that I've been trained to do to remember things, right? And you know, we've got 12 months in a year, which we are going to go through. But this book of Esther, let's start with chapter 1, verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus. This was Ahasuerus who reigned over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia. And in those days, when King Ahasuerus sat on the throne in his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the citadel. Now you remember Shushan is actually Babylon, and modern Shushan now is in Iran, right? It's in Iran. And I was looking at the map, I was thinking, hang on, you know, in the story it says that he sent letters out to right through the ends of the kingdom, 127 provinces, going from Ethiopia right up to the Indus Valley, which is India. So hang on, you got to send letters out there, and they didn't have it by internet. No email. Kids, no email. Oh, no email, right? Letters, snail mail, okay? You write it, king stamps it by post. It says by post. And it goes throughout the kingdom on camels, on horseback, on foot, whatever it takes. And you think, to do that, how long would it take? And I was calculating in my mind. I was thinking, a camel, not that I've ridden a camel, right, but horseback. Horses can do an average, Cheryl, you're a horse lady. If you were to push your horse a day, how far would it go? 30 Ks? No? All right, you don't want horses dropping dead, right, because the letter will just stay by the horse. Okay, 20 kilometers a day, right? 20 kilometers a day. But hang on, do you know the Pony Express, they might go 20 Ks, right? They might go 20 Ks an hour, and then they change horses, right? So they can go quite far. If you can average 10, 20 an hour, you could, in a day, right, cover a couple of 100 Ks. If you're swapping horses and camels and those sort of things. Forget about the snails, they're too slow, right? So, in the third year of his reign, this king Ahasuerus, he made a feast, a party. Kids, who loves parties? Right? Actually, I don't love parties. I used to love parties. I don't love parties anymore. Too much work. I have to do the cooking and the washing and the cleaning. But the king, he doesn't have to do that. He holds a party. Why did he hold? In the third year of his reign, he holds a party. But this is such a big party. Let's have a look. For all his officials and servants as well. You know, all these people that have been working hard in his kingdom, his servants. In his courts, the king had 7 chamberlains. Right? 7 people who looked in his throne room, who looked after him. And of course, he had 7 princes as well, like 7 ministers. And he had 1 prime minister, which we will go through. And he says, verse 4, and he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom. Now we know why he wanted to have this party. So he could show off. This king was a show-off king, okay? He wanted to show off. Look what I got. I've got a yellow car. No, yellow chariot. You know what I mean? I want to show off, And I've got splendor, excellent majesty for many days. 180 days. Oh, man. After one night, I'm partied out. Right? He went for 180 days for all his court officials and his servants. Verse 5, and when these days were completed, the king made a feast lasting. When 180 completed, now he made another feast lasting only 7 days, a short party for all the people who were present in Shushan. So this is local party now. At the citadel, from great to small, in the court of the garden of the king's palace. So now this is like a garden party. You've seen like on the news, Queen Elizabeth has a garden party which she invites some guests. But this is an open house one, right? Imagine, having an open house. In Malaysia, we do have, especially in the festive seasons, like the Chinese New Year or even the Muslims when they do that, for the celebration day, is open house. If they're celebrating, you can just go in and enjoy their food, right? It's an open house. So the king had this open house. Imagine this, right? I haven't got pictures up there. Let's look at what he had. White and blue linen curtains, fastened with cords of fine linen, and purple on silver rods, marble pillars, not wooden and foam styrene ones like we have these days, marble pillars, and the couches were of gold and silver on a mosaic pavement of alabaster, turquoise, and white and black marble. Wow, would have been fantastic. You go into the courts and you get this. And just imagine you go, oh, king's got free food, let's go. You go get some free food, but then you go, wow, is this how he's living? We've got little huts and humpies, and the king is living in splendor. But the king wanted to show off. He wanted to show off, right? After all this drinking, you think the king will be drunk? Because there was no whole bar as far as the drinking goes. There was no rules. You drank, every man drank according to what he wanted. No rules. So you think the king would have been quite intoxicated at this point? Yeah? I think so, after 7 days. So he gets in his mind, he says, all this, I've got my thing. Where's my wife? His wife, what's her name? Vashti, right? We'll see. And he calls for his wife. He says, hey, go get my wife. She's beautiful. You got to see my wife. She's really beautiful. Go get her. So they go and he's waiting. Wife doesn't turn up. Hey, where's my wife? Vashti, queen, my queen. She's beautiful. Sorry to say, she doesn't want to come. What do you mean she doesn't want to come? Right? She has to come. I'm king. She has to come. So he's getting a bit embarrassed now. He made an order to bring his wife. And we look. In the meantime, while the king was having his feast, the queen was having her feast as well. She made a feast herself. Well, let's look at verse, 9. Verse 9, Queen Vashti also made a feast for the women in the royal palace, which belonged to King Ahasuerus. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry, he commanded Mehuman, right, and all those people, 7 eunuchs who served in the presence of king, to bring Queen Vashti before them, and she didn't want to come. She didn't want to come, so he got mad. I saw a cartoon, well, you can call it a cartoon or a computer-graphed thing on the story of Esther. It's called VeggieTales. And VeggieTales actually, king got rid of Vashti because she wouldn't make him a sandwich. Right? But that's not true. We have to go back to the Bible to get the truth. The truth is that Queen Vashti didn't want to come. On I think the main account would be he would have been intoxicated. And she thought, well, I'm queen. I don't need to do this. You are drunk. I don't want to go there. I don't want to be showed off. Right. So this is a story that's starting to go through, right? chapter 1, I can't go through the whole story because went through the story quite a few times, and it takes me an hour to read all the 10 chapters. It takes me an hour to read all the 10 chapters. I went it quite through a few times just to try and get some import on it. Because the story is a simple one, but God has a message in this story. God has a message. So we look in chapter 1 and 2, right? We see that the story goes from the king wanted to show his splendor, to actually now there is a problem. The king's command has not been acted on, and not only that, the queen herself is the one that actually disobeyed his command. Now, he has a problem. So, he's got advisors. What shall I do? And so we look in the summary. I'm looking at summary. Refuses to come, makes the king angry. His counselors express concerns that Vashti's insubordination will set a bad precedent for wives everywhere. They advise that she is to be replaced so the right message is sent out of the land. So not only that she didn't want to come and disobey his commandments, now they're thinking, hang on, king's wife, disobedient. Our wives are going to take this as an example, and now they're going to be disobedient. How would you like that? This cannot happen. The whole empire will be in disarray when the wives won't listen to the husband. So when the husband comes back from fighting a war, and can you get me a cup of tea? No. Get it yourself. So this cannot happen. So when we get to chapter 2, we see that now the king is looking for a new queen. Now, what is the situation here in the kingdom of Persia, Medo-Persia, but Persia being the stronger one, right? And we see in Daniel 7 and 8 where the animals were representing the kingdoms, we see that the bear is raised on one leg or 1 foot, saying that one part is stronger than the other in the kingdom. So we have to look at prophecy right down through the ages, and Daniel 2 of the prophetic chart, or the story there with Nebuchadnezzar, gives us an insight right down the line. But here, when we look at this prophetic chart, we are in Persia, we are the second kingdom here we're dealing with. And this second kingdom is one that God has set up to take his people out of Babylon, right? And to give the command, or give a way for his people to go back to Jerusalem to build a temple, to go back to their own land. Now, when Cyrus came in to take over, Cyrus was very kind, and he said, you guys can go back. You can go back. The command was given to go back to your land. You can go back. But only 50,000 took up that offer. The rest stayed. They were comfortable. So, when God asks us to do things, we want to stay in our comfort zone, don't we? Yeah, it's easier to stay in a comfort zone, but the comfort zone will not stay in a comfort zone forever. God knows that. So there were 3 calls to go back. And the 3 calls were from Cyrus, from Darius, and Artaxerxes the first. But Xerxes, he had his own problems here, and this is the story we're dealing with. Now let's look at that. He looks for a new queen in chapter 2. We go to chapter 2. After these things, when the wrath of the king Ahasuerus subsided, he remembered Vashti, he said, a queen, and she had done and what had been decreed against her. Then the king's servants who attended him said, let beautiful young virgins be sought for the king, and let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather all the beautiful young virgins of Shushan, the citadel, into the women's quarters under the custody of Haggai, the king's eunuch, and custodian of the women, and let beauty preparations be given them. Now he's looking for a queen, and this is it. Look for all the beautiful women in the kingdom. Bring them there. And when you read that, to do it in detail is quite difficult in the time I've got. It's just basically get all the nice, beautiful women, and they've got 1 year to prepare. 6 months they're going to get nice smelling stuff to put on themselves. The other 6 months they put some other stuff on themselves. Beautify. So it's like a detoxing, beautifying treatment for 1 year before you see the king. Is that right, women? You do that? Nah. I think Cheryl doesn't wear makeup or anything like that. It's easy. 5 seconds, you're done. I gave up my makeup a long time ago too, so I don't have to worry about that, right? But 1 whole year. And of course, Esther has to do it because she's a young, beautiful woman, a virgin, and she's been pulled in and say, yep, you have to be part of the selection of the king. So this is what happened. So in the meantime, who is Esther, by the way? Esther. Well, when we look some background, her name is Hadassah, right? Her Jewish name is Hadassah, which means myrtle, which is evergreen. But her name's Esther, which could be a derivative of Ishtar, which is a god of the Persians and of the Babylonians as well. So we don't know about her. We call her Esther, but she was orphaned. She had no mom and dad. Mordecai, her uncle, took her under the wing. Who's Mordecai? Mordecai is actually from the tribe of Benjamin. So he's a Benjamite, which means that Esther would be a Benjamite, right, from that line. So Mordecai said, oh, what do I do? Esther's gone. So he advised her that don't tell him that you're a Jew. Don't tell him you're a Jew. Do whatever is required of you, right? And, when we get down here, this is the setup there, but a small snippet of the story in chapter 2, right? A small snippet of the story. Mordecai is actually a court official, and he sits at the gate of the king. Mordecai overheard a plot to kill the king, as we know. Right, kids, you heard a plot. They were talking, we're going to kill the king, we're going to poison him, we're going to do all that. And Mordecai was around the corner there, and he heard that, and he said, oh, I better tell Esther. I can't approach the king, but I can tell Esther that let the king know that this is what's happened. So investigations were done, the king got this, and those 2 people who actually were going to plot to kill the king, they were taken care of, right? And the whole thing was forgotten because at this point of time, the king is focused on getting a new queen. Although his life was spared, but he didn't do anything about it. Okay, let's go to chapter 3. Chapter 3 is about another character that comes in. He's the baddie. Okay, kids? You got a story, you got goodies, you got baddies, you got the hero, and all those sort of things. But we get here in chapter 3, all these things King Ahasuerus promoted Haman. We say Haman, but sometimes it's pronounced Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him and set him seat above all the princes who were with him. Excuse me. This cold weather plays with my sinuses, plays with everything. So excuse me if I have to now and again sneeze here and there. All right? I haven't got COVID, by the way. So don't worry. So basically, a prime minister is chosen in chapter 3, and his name is Haman. Now, Haman has a problem. He also wants to be recognized. he thinks, I am next to the king. I am the big man here, next to the king. So wherever I go, you have to bow to me, right? You have to bow to me. But as one day when he was going through the gate, there's Mordecai at the gate. Mordecai doesn't bow to him, right? Why? Why doesn't Mordecai bow to him? Because Mordecai is true to his God, and he's the only person that Mordecai bows to. Haman did not like it at all, right? And so Haman said, this is not on. I am the big man here. I need to be respected, right? And sometimes, what did Jesus say about people in leadership, in positions, right? When his disciples were having problems with this sort of thing. Jesus said, the worldly kings, right? When they rule, everyone has to be subject to them. But not so in my kingdom, he says. The least of you, those who serves the most, right? The least of you is the greatest, right? And that's what we have, we in God's kingdom, that he who serves the most, God considers him the greatest in his kingdom. It's a kingdom of service. Now, it happened here in verse 4. Let's see, King command continuing, but Mordecai would. Okay, we start verse 2. And all the king's servants who were within king's gate bowed and paid homage to Haman, for so the king had commanded concerning him. But Mordecai would not bow or pay homage. When the king's servants who were within the king's gate said to Mordecai, why do you transgress the king's command? Now it happened when they spoke to him daily, he would not listen to them, but they told it to Haman to see whether Mordecai's words would stand, for Mordecai had told them that he was a Jew. When Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow or pay him homage, Haman was filled with wrath. But he disdained to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had told him of the people of Mordecai. So Haman was made known by his colleagues that, hey, this group of people, Jews, right? They're their own people. They got their own laws. They got their own rules, And that's why Mordecai is not going to bow to you. Because these people, they only bow to their own God. They don't worship anyone else. Oh, is that so? Well, I'm not going to get only Haman. Haman said, I'm not only going to get Mordecai. He said, I'm going to get all these people. So he devised a plan, right? And then he brought this plan to the king. Now, it's strange that this is, the Bible says here that, verse 7, I'll get you to pick up on verse 7. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of the king Ahasuerus. So we see the first month, so they are working on a different calendar system. We operate on a calendar system called the Gregorian Calendar, right, which came from Pope Gregory. And that's what we got, the Gregorian Calendar, which starts on the 1st of January. Is that right? Yeah, if you can remember the 1st of January. And finishes on 31st of December. Gregorian Calendar. They're working on a different calendar. They're working on started from, probably Sumeria and maybe coming through Babylon for sure, right? And then now they're in Persia. They're still using that calendar, which start from Nisan, Iyar, and then we hear also Sivan, right? And then the fourth month, which is Tammuz. Tammuz, it's God. So all these calendars, each month is to a god, right? The fifth month, F. The sixth month, Elul. The seventh month, Tishrei. The eighth month is Heshvan. The ninth month is Kislev. The 10th month is Tevet. 11th month is Siviat. And the 12th month is Adar. We are going to deal with Nisan to Adar. That's 12 months, right? So what he said, okay, want to kill the Jews. How am I going to kill the Jews? let's cast lots. So they cast lots on what day they should kill the Jews and what month they should kill the Jews. So the day fell on the day 13th, and the month fell on the month Adar. But they are sitting in the month Nisan, which is the first month. In our time would be about March, April. And you think, you've got almost 12 months, right? God would have orchestrated that so that God's people had time to do things. So letters went out, said to the king, there is a people here that are not very good. They are not following your laws. I think they should be wiped out. Oh, they're not following my laws. Yeah, they're not following your laws. I think they should be wiped out. Oh, okay, Haman. Oh, sure. No, I will put that money in silver. How many talents did he do? 10,000 talents. Do you know how much 1 talent weighs? 1 talent weighs about 34 kilograms. 10,000, that's 34, that's 340,000 kilograms of silver. So Haman was going to put that money up so that God's people could be destroyed. Now we have a problem. Mordecai gets this letter. He says, we are in trouble now. So he sees Esther. The focus, Joseph, if you want a title for this story, I think the title would be For Such a Time as This. And this would come from chapter 4, verse 14. Let's look at chapter 4, verse 14. So Mordecai goes to Esther and says, hey, you are close to the king. You're queen. Can you speak to the king and get him to reverse that order that we will be killed on the 13th day of Adar? And Esther said, you don't know, Uncle Mordecai, you don't know that no one's allowed to go in there. Anyone can go in there. The king can order them to be killed. So Mordecai says this in verse 14. For if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. Yet who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? This is the key, this is the anchor for this whole story. And our story here, in this point of time, our story here, we are put on this planet at this time of world's history for such a time as this. What time is it? And I'll go through that time as we summarize towards the end. And I know I'm running out of time, and I'm only on chapter 4, and I've got another, but the last chapter is only a summary, so it's nothing much. So the story, as the account goes, I don't like saying story because it is an historical account. So Mordecai says, hey, Esther, my adopted daughter, if you don't go into the king, we will all be lost. But bear in mind that, that our people, God will look after them, but you and your people, because you did not act, you will be lost. Right? So Esther said, oh, what do we do? So she says, okay, go and fast. We're going to fast. Right? The text says fast, but what usually goes hand in hand with fasting? Prayer. Right? Although the text doesn't say it, it is fasting. Fasting is, an important part of prayer, earnest prayer. And we've been going through Ellen White's, for our opening of Sabbath, Ellen White's spiritual gifts. And they do a lot of fasting, they do a lot of prayer, because they need it. Because God needs a clear mind, He needs clear dedication, He needs 100% of our attention and our dedication and our focus for Him to use us for His work. Do you believe that? 100%. We need to be 100% dedicated, 100% here, 100%. We need to have 100% time management. God wants 100%. He doesn't want 99%. In this case, Esther said, what am I going to do? Okay, you guys go. I'll get my chamberlains. I'll get my maids who are looking after me. I'll get them to fast as well. So do you think Esther was actually witnessing to the people around her when she could get her chamberlains to actually fast with her? So fasting and prayer. Then she devises a plan. She said, okay, I'll go, but she won't go right into the throne room. She'll just hang around the outside, right? And hopes that the king will notice her. Because the king, even there, what are you doing outside there? Are you up to no good, right? Kids, mom and dad say that? What are you doing out in the yard there? You've been too quiet. Are you up to no good? So the queen's there, and the king noticed it. He loves her. He thought she was just the bee's knees, right? He loves her. Oh, my queen, right? So he has a scepter. If he doesn't put the scepter forward to invite her in, that's it. But he invites her in. So she comes in, and king says, what do you want? Yeah? I've just come to invite you to dinner. No, I've just come to invite you to dinner. Oh, really? And Haman, come to dinner. So we get down, let's see. So I'll give some summary onto chapter 5. The king welcomes her, holding out his scepter to her to indicate that she's not to be killed. Esther invites the king and Haman to a feast. At the feast, Esther asked that king and Haman come to another feast on the following day. Haman is frustrated by Mordecai's continued refusal to bow before him. So his wife Zeresh advises him to have a gallows built and to request the king at the banquet to have Mordecai hung. So this is happening in 2 nights, right? During the day, Esther goes in and says, hey, come to dinner. And then they go to dinner. And he invites the king to a feast, asks the king to come on another feast. So this is a second night, right? Between this time, Haman asks his wife, or his wife advises him. Was it good advice? Sometimes you have to listen to your wife. If you want a peaceful marriage. So chapter 6 now gets into a bit more how this is resolved. So let's go to chapter 6. So the story so far. Queen Vashti got kicked out. Esther becomes queen. Mordecai is at the gate. Haman gives a death decree to be acted on the 13th day of the last month of the month Adar. And now Haman doesn't like Mordecai, wants him hung. So, but between now and the next one, the king is troubled. He has he can't sleep. One restless night, he said, I can't sleep. Let me, can you bring me the books? Read to me a bedtime story, chronicles of how great I am, right? So to be read to him, the king discovers that Mordecai was never rewarded for saving his life. The king asked Haman to lead the parade. Okay, this is quite a, I wouldn't say a funny part, but you can see God's working in this. So the king says, he doesn't tell that he wants it. So the king says to Haman, he says, my prime minister, I've got someone I want to reward. What do you think I should reward this person who's really done the right thing by me, right? What shall I reward? And so Haman said, I think he wants to reward me. I'm the greatest next to him. So he says, I think, king, I think you should take this crown and put it on his head, give him your robes, put it on a white horse and parade him around town, Because Haman think, wow, I'll have the king's crown, I'll have his ring, I'll have his robe, I'll be the best dressed person on the nicest horse, and I'll be paraded. All my friends will see me, my family will see me, my 10 sons will be so proud of me, And he said to the king, this is what you should do. And the king says, that's a good idea. I tell you what, since you suggested it, you make it happen to Mordecai. I want to reward him. Oh no! What do you think would have been going through Haman's head? Oh no, my worst enemy, and God, and this king wants me to reward him. That's terrible. So now we get to the second night. This is quite crucial. This second night is in verse 6. One night the king could not sleep, and so on. And the king hurried to take the robe, horse, and so on. We go after that. One thing was not so much mentioned, but Queen Esther did not mention her heritage or her background, right? So king did not know that she was a Jew. So when the second night, the king said, "What would you like? You've invited me to dinner twice. You know what I mean? Food's great and all that, but I know you've got something you want me, right?" And Esther said, "Well, king, you're the greatest. I know you this, but I've got a problem here, right? Houston, we have a problem. You made a rule. You sent out a thing, and yours stand to say that my people and I'm one of my people, the Jews should be killed, and I'm going to be killed." What? Who said that? Who did that? And king said, and Esther says, what did she say? Haman, he did it. He's the one that, and the king knew that he was tricked. The king knew he was tricked. So what do we do? Esther said, can't you reverse that order? And the king said to her, you know that once the order goes out, it cannot be reversed. And how would you resolve that? A death penalty, right? A death penalty cannot be reversed. But the king did something, and I think God put that in the king's head to say, okay, I can't reverse it, but what I can do is that I will give another order out, send out through camels and snails and whatever, right? Emails, whatever you can, your drums, to tell that on the 13th day, which is Purim, the Jews celebrate this day even to this day, Purim. The 13th, the 14th, even the 15th sometimes, but mainly the 13th and the 14th. Purim comes from the word pu, to cast lots. You know Haman casted lots to get the day and the thing, but pur is to cast lots. Same like in Greek times, they would cast lots too. But when in the parliament, if they wanted to ostracize someone, get rid of him, right, to keep him out and not come in, they would cast lots, but they would cast lots on shards of broken pottery. And the broken pottery in Greek is called ostrika. That's where the word ostracize comes from. So this Purim cast lots. So it's on that day, your people are allowed to defend themselves. They are allowed to take arms and defend themselves against those who hate them and want to kill them. And not only that, Mordecai, who is now prime minister, right, who's now prime minister and waxing great, he will send soldiers out to protect you. Now, isn't that a good thing? Isn't that a good thing? And so as the account goes, and I've run out of time, and I'm going to have to just summarize the rest of it. Esther is given Haman's property. Like Esther begs that her life and the life of the Jews may be spared. The king is angry. Haman pleads for his life before the queen. When the king enters, Haman trips onto a couch, so the king thinks he is assaulting her. Haman is hung on the very gallows that he made for Mordecai. And Esther also said that his 10 sons should be hung there as well. So in chapter 8, Esther is given Haman's property, and Mordecai assumes Haman's place. Esther begs the king to save the Jews. The decree is irrevocable once ratified by the king. But a counter decree is given, right? So that on that day they can defend themselves. So the Jews on that day, when it did come, defended themselves. And even the commoners wanted to be Jews. They knew that if they were Jews, they were better protected than and a lot of the people, all their enemies were destroyed, about 75,000 of them. So this story of Esther being queen and Mordecai being raised, and the baddies got hung and all those sort of things. It is a story, it's an account where you don't see, God is not mentioned once in all of the 10 chapters, but the closest you'd see is in chapter 4, verse 14, where Mordecai says to Esther, maybe you've been put there just for a time like this. Yeah? Maybe you've been put there for just a time like this. Ellen White, in the chapter 49 of Prophets and Kings, she says that under the favor shown by Cyrus, nearly 50,000 of the children of the captivity had taken advantage of the decree permitting their return. These, however, in comparison with the mass multitude, only 50,000, right? And when you think God could see that if you don't get out of Persia or Babylon, right, now Persia, you're going to have problems. Cyrus is okay, Darius is okay, but Xerxes, he is a bit of a loose cannon here. The people are going to have problems. So God foresaw that, and he gives counsel to get out. He gave commands to get out. How does that relate to us? When we look at Revelation chapter 14, verse 4, 3-4, come out of her, my people. Come out of her, my people. God's people are in the world, in other churches, other Christian churches as well. Come out of her. God wants us to come out of her so that you not partake of their sins. So when we look at the time that we are living in, maybe we have been put in this church in Northam just for such a time as this, that we can witness, right? I don't know why Cheryl and I have been sent to wherever we've been sent. I don't know why. But I can see now things are getting clearer, that there are people out there, there are churches out there that probably need waking up. Who knows? You know, God uses us for his work, and we need to be available to him. I would stay in Northam and be comfortable here, right? But we need to go out into the world and tell that Jesus is coming soon. The Holy Spirit wants us to use us in his work. So for such a time as this, we have been put here. Where is our part in this? The only thing that is stopping God from using us is us. Right? And what do you mean by us? Well, I really want God to use me. I really want God to use me. And you think, why isn't he using me? Well, if you get up at 10 o'clock to come to church, he can't use you at 9 o'clock. Right? Or if you, on your day off, you just sit and go play golf, he can't use you. You have to make yourself available to God so that he can use you. I mean, these are hard words. I'm not pulling any punches. We are at a crossroads in our church, right? Our church here. I'm not worried about all the other churches because we are here. We are concerned with our church here, aren't we? Right? There's still a lot of empty spaces here that need to be filled, right? Sabbath school, only half the church is here. What's going on, guys? What is going on? Half the church is here at Sabbath school time. Sabbath starts from sunset to sunset. You have all day, from sunset to sunset. Be here on time. Be here before time. Time management is key to be used by the Holy Spirit, by God, for God's work. Without time management, the devil gets in, right? You need to make yourself available. God is not worried about the talents. Even if you got one talent, He can work with that. Even if you got no talents, He'll give you the talent, the one talent, right? He needs people who are willing. Be willing. Do not make excuses. Don't let the world or your friends or whatever pull you away. Be willing. We are at the crossroads. This town needs people who need to hear about Jesus, right? Not to scare them that the world is going to end, but to tell them about Jesus. Let God take care of it. That's a God problem, right? Not our problem. What's going on in the world financially, what's going on in the world health-wise, what's going on in the world with politically, that's not our problem. That is a God problem. Our problem is to make ourselves available, like Esther made herself available, like Daniel made himself available, right? So that God could use us, use them, and use us now for His work. So the message of today is God has put us in the Northam Church for such a time as this. So I get you to stand, if you're able to. If you stand and sing hymn number 610. Well, you better stand for this one because it says stand like the brave, or else if you're going to sit down, it's going to say sit like the brave.